Hey everyone, Joe Bowen, the voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs here, inviting you to join a very special podcast, 30 Minutes Live with CDP. It's every Wednesday and Friday night on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the second part of my double header today here on Live with CDP podcast. I'm just waiting for my next guest, Greg Sloan, the longtime TV play-by-play announcer voice of the Ontario Hockey League's London Knights on Rogers TV in London, to come on. So just bear with me, guys, and thank you all for watching again today. And I hope you enjoyed my earlier podcast with Eric Smith from the Toronto Raptors as well. So I'm looking forward to speaking to Greg about the London Knights and how he thinks the team will do this year, because the OHL was shut down, as you guys all know, by the pandemic for the last year and a half, 18 months approximately, and there's some changes and stuff like that. But I know the Knights are going to be good on the goal in net with Brad Brashear, and they also going to have Bryce Montgomery, one of their veteran defensemen, back, and Ben Rogers as well. So we'll see what happens, but I'm really looking forward to talking to Greg this afternoon about doing play-by-play for the Rogers TV in London, and doing the Knights coverage since, I believe, 2007 and 2008 with Rick Doyle. So anyways, I think he just popped on now. So we'll just give Greg about a minute to get in there, and we'll have him on. And I really appreciate Greg coming on today. And like I said, we're looking forward to the start of the OHL season. The London Knights last night played an exhibition game in the First Ontario Centre in Hamilton. I still call it the Cops Coliseum. The Knights won 7-2, and I believe they have another preseason game Thursday night against the Barrie Colts. And I know the Storm are next in action Friday night at the Sleeman Center, which I'll be doing volunteer work with Rogers TV. So, guys, I'm just going to put Greg on in just 30 seconds if Greg's ready to come on, and we'll talk a little bit about the Ontario Hockey League return, and about his London Knights, and how he sees the 21-22 Knights team to take place. So just going to give him 1 second. And you guys can check out their website at londonnights.com. And you can also check out the Ontario Hockey League at .com website as well. So, like I said, guys, I just want to say thank you, everybody, again, for tuning into my podcast today. And like I said, I'm going to bring Greg on in just a few moments, and we'll talk some Ontario Hockey League and some London Knights, and his involvement with Rogers TV in London as well. He also used to call games for the Mississauga OHL team as well many years ago. So, and he's partnered with Rick Doyle, his former London Knights defenseman, and he's been doing color analyst for the Knights with Rogers TV since 2001, I believe. So yes, Greg just joined. Greg just came on here now. I'm just giving him a little bit of time to set up, I guess, just so he can talk to us. So yeah, just bear with us, and hopefully in another 20-30 seconds I can bring Greg on. He's just setting up on here. So, but like I said, we'll see what happens there. Anyways, guys, like I said, I'm really looking forward to this 21-22 Ontario Hockey League season. There's going to be a lot of unknowns since the league was shut down during the pandemic in March 2020. And like I said, right now the teams are just finishing up their preseason schedule. And like I said, I think I might be able to get Greg on here now. Just bear with me, and we'll try to bring on the TV voice of the London Knights on Rogers TV in London. So 1 second, I'm going to try to bring him on right now. Hey, Glenn, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Thank you again for coming on today to my podcast. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you too. It looks like a nice day where you are.
Well, I'm in just in my backyard trying to do some work as far as my business, my other business, if you will. I'm in the financial business, so just like talking to people, shaking hands, kissing babies, all that good stuff.
You must be excited as well about the return of the Ontario Hockey League and working again with your partner on the Rogers telecast and Rick Doyle.
Oh yeah, for sure. We've been doing it now. I think it's our man. I've been doing this for 19 years, so 15 of them now in London. I think this is our 15th year in London together.
Okay, and I guess you originally called games in Mississauga too before London, correct?
Yeah, we did. I did them with in Mississauga when they were the Ice Dogs, and did that I guess starting in 2003 or 2004, one or the other. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm just glad the Ontario Hockey League's back after I'd say almost a year and a half. And I was speaking to Mike Stubbs about a week and a half ago, and I said it's going to be a very interesting first couple of months because I don't know teams know what they have yet with a lot of their young talent. I know the Guelph Storm have up to maybe 13 rookies on their team this year.
Yeah, that's the whole thing of it is you just don't know with the year and the year, basically 2 years off, and you really start thinking about it. You never got to play the playoffs, and I guess it would be 2020. So, and then all of a sudden, your 16-year-olds are now 18-year-olds, and 17-year-olds are now 19-year-olds, and you simply just don't. In my opinion, is where the heck is this going? Because there were rookies at the time. They're coming at a major Michigan into a rookie. But even the 17-year-olds were only sophomores. They got the ice time. So it's quite interesting what'll happen. Kind of everybody kind of starts
Oh, Greg, you're just freezing up. I guess I'm not sure. Can you hear and see me okay? It's just on your end, you're just freezing up there a little bit.
Oh, okay. I was just saying. I'm not sure I cut off there, but I'm just saying it's kind of
Sometimes,
new for everyone because of all the 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds that are now 18, 19-year-olds in the league. You don't know what you've
yes,
got, right?
yes.
And so you don't know where the scoring's going to come from, right? These a little bit more predictable in my mind because you have right to be taught, right? But at the end of the day, skill when it comes to scoring, right? So that's everybody's kind of in the same boat when it comes to the fact that, geez, I don't know where the scoring's going to come from in my lineup, if you will, up front. So it's pretty hard for all of us, and even the broadcasters, Chris, because guess what? It's brand spanking new, man. Like we've done 2 games already, and it's like even calling the London Knights, it's an away game for me because there's so many new faces in the lineup, if you will.
I was gonna say, the Knight's strengths, from what I look at, would be right now would be their goaltending and their on their back end. It might be the
Right.
forward situation where it might be a little bit of a struggle to generate offense.
Yeah, correct. Brochu will be. He might even make Team Canada. You don't know. He's outstanding goaltender, Brett Brochu. He came out of the blue, by the way, and just plays. He's so competitive, and he's played well in the preseason. I was in that game in Hamilton, at the game in Hamilton last night. It was
Okay.
rather a heated affair, actually. But anyways, Brett Brochu, the back end, young but with some experience. They're missing Steckloff, though. He's decided to. My understanding is decided to play in the KHL. Okay, so we'll miss him, but Bryce Montgomery and Ben Roger will stabilize that D on the back end. Keane will help out too, and the newcomer Isaiah George from originally drafted. I think he's from the Mississauga Rebels originally. A couple of years back, played junior B the first year, but he's a 70 and he's played well. So the Knights are looking pretty good on the back end. I like their D. They're big. Okay, they're very defensive minded, and Keene will help out with some scoring along with probably Montgomery and Roger. Up front, you're right. It's tough to say where they're going to get. And again, I come back to the point I was just making. It's tough to see where the heck they're going to get their scoring. So a lot of the scoring, as in most teams, went out the window, obviously, during COVID. After, so, you got Evangelista, who will probably score 25-30. You have Stranges. He'll come back from Antonio Stranges. He'll come back from Dallas. I understand he's got a bit of a shoulder problem, though, as we speak. But he'll come back. He'll probably score 30, 35 himself. Some kids will really develop. McGurry has developed into a good player. I really like their first-round pick. He's really impressed me in the preseason so far. Small, but 16. So yeah, he'll grow into it. And again, it comes full circle. So who knows where that scoring's coming from? We do know that Dale and Mark always draft skill. Yeah, they don't care how big you are. Well, they do, but they don't. But they look for skill, right? Because they know that if you can't put the puck in the net, you can't put the puck in the net. You know what I mean? You can't teach that. You can teach D, but you can't put the puck in the net with systems, right? So they'll teach them the systems, but then again, the skill, and of course, their body will grow if they're smaller on the smaller side.
And a hockey IQ too, as well, would be high with them as well, and with most teams nowadays.
Yeah, that's what the game is. Hockey IQ.
Yeah.
You got to have it. Yeah, it's all about IQ. It's just exactly that IQ, along with that skill. So it's exciting, Chris. The fact of even from our standpoint, from a broadcasting standpoint, it's exciting. The fact that everybody's kind of on the same page and no more by Christmas, obviously. Who's not, type of thing.
And I was going to say, I can't speak for the other teams in the league, but I know currently right now the Storm don't have any overage players. And I believe when I talked to Mike Stubbs about a week and a half ago, the Knights didn't have any overagers currently on their roster as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, not only that, they don't have any OAs, but they technically don't have any imports either, technically, right at the moment. So they're a very young hockey club. Now, having said that won't stay like that very long. They'll get some OAs. I don't think, just my opinion, I don't think the Knights are going to go through a season without any OAs or any imports in their lineup. All right. There's some rumors, if you will, going out there might be going down. I'm not going to disclose it, but I'm just beyond that. I don't think that's going to happen with their. This is not going to be what you see. What I seen in Hamilton last night's not going to be their roster, as most teams. They got to figure out. Who the heck, who the heck's going to can play in the OHL and who's going to what they need to do. Probably by Christmas time, or they'll have a good handle on it, as I mentioned.
I'm just looking forward to. I was back with Rogers TV last week for my first game as a camera operator in 18 months, and like I said, it was nice feeling being back in the arena again. And the game Guelph against Niagara was actually very chippy, and there was a couple of fights in the game too. And it was actually very entertaining for preseason hockey. And I guess, Greg, after having things taken away from us for a year and a half, now you tend to appreciate even preseason a little bit more now.
Absolutely. It's just the fact, as you mentioned, just the fact of being in the rink, being in the booth. I kind of thought, well, boy, I've been doing this a long time. And I said to myself going into because we did the first game of the preseason back in the long weekend in September on the Friday night. I said, boy, oh boy, if I forgot how to call hockey, I think it's been so long. But the good thing is that it's the feel of it coming back into the rink, and just even there was only 1,000 people there. Like normally on a Friday night there, even a long weekend, London would still have 6,000 or 7,000 people in that rink, even for a preseason game normally. But 1,000, as the government said, we could only have 1,000 in that night. But it just felt good, just having whether it's chippy or not. I thought all the hockey I've seen so far, I've seen about 4 or 5 games. Again, what can you expect? It's going to be a little chippy. It's going to be a little scrambly. But it's good. It's entertaining, as you mentioned.
Definitely. Now, Mike Stubbs called the game last night for the Knights. Did you go up to the press box to watch the game there too, or did you sit down in the lower 100 seats? Because I hear that.
I sat down in the lower bowl with Reed Duffy. He was doing the radio call for Hamilton. Actually, I just sat below him along with Norm Miller, who does the color on the TV broadcast. Yeah. So we were just. Go ahead.
I was going to say that press box up in Hamilton, from what Mike Stubbs and Mike Farwell and some of the other guys say, it's quite a doozy walk getting up to that press box. I keep calling it the cops.
I used to do games there a long time ago for the AHL, the American Hockey League, and when they were the Bulldogs then. And if you don't like heights, you don't want to be a broadcaster there. It's so friggin' high, and frankly, but you're right over top of the rink, but you can't. It's so high up that the game looks slow from up there. Ideally, where we were sitting, like Duffy last night was sitting right in the middle there. It was perfect, right? Just on below the lower tier to do the game. And I said to Norm, I said, boy, this is perfect. They could put you here, maybe a little bit out more. Ideally, maybe the second deck at the lower end type of thing. But that's a big rink. My understanding, though, Chris, is that they're renovating the what do you call it now? First
Ontario Credit Center.
Yeah, they're renovating it. They're putting X amount of dollars into it. That's the route they're going, and keeping the Bulldogs in town and all that good stuff. And so, it'd be interesting to see what they do with that to make it more conducive to junior hockey.
Okay. Just let me know if you're still okay for time. I just wanted to ask you some questions.
Yep. Okay. Go ahead.
No problem. The first one I wanted to ask.
Fire away.
Okay. First one I want to ask you is, can you just tell my audience here in Guelph, that's where I'm based out of, just a little bit about yourself, and when did you decide you wanted to pursue a career as a play-by-play announcer, like just get involved in call hockey games and stuff like that for Rogers TV, etc.?
Never really wanted to be a broadcaster. It's an extension of me playing the game. I played junior myself. I didn't play major junior. I was in the SEAL organization, but I didn't play major junior, played some tier 2, junior B, that sort of thing. And I said to myself, after I did the coaching thing, I want to keep involved in the game at a higher level. But I was always, as a kid, intrigued with the play-by-play guy, right? So I said, something, I'd like to maybe try that type of thing. So I practiced at rinks and junior C games. It's a long story there, and junior B games. And I ended up starting with Cogeco in Burlington, doing some high school hockey way back when. And then I ended up doing tier 2 with the Oakville Blades. And then I started doing Mississauga. So that's how I got into it. It's more of a passion of me playing the game as opposed to broadcasting the game. And so that's how I do my call. It might come out in that way. But I'm playing the hockey game as opposed to being a TV broadcaster. And it's just the venue is me doing the play-by-play on Rogers TV.
Okay. And next question I wanted to ask you, just final thoughts on the 2019-20 London Knights team before the pandemic shut down the season.
Well, I actually thought, I don't know to wave the flag here, but I actually thought London would win the West in that season. Just too many good players on that. It would have been, with McMichael and Foodie and up front, and the back end was strong with Merkley, former Guelph Storm, Merkley and Steckloff, and they had a good team, and Brochure was playing very well. And there was one game, and the other team I thought would have been in the OHL fire would have been what the Guelph Storm faced a couple of years back, and it would have been Ottawa. I figured it would have been Ottawa in the East. So I figured it would have been a Ottawa-London final in the Ontario Hockey League. It would have been a toss-up. There was one game in February. It was like, hey, they were playing for the Robertson Cup, and London ended up winning it McMichael in overtime, I think it was, or the last minute in the game. It was close, but man, it was good hockey. You could tell those two teams were thinking the same thing I'm thinking, right? Or telling you right now with that 20 season. So I would have thought that the Knights would have finished high. All right. Again, anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Playoffs are playoffs. The old saying, you never know. The new season starts and the playoffs start, but who knows? But junior hockey's pretty predictable if you got a good team. Like, look at Guelph. Like, even when Guelph came back and beat London that year that they went on, you knew Guelph was solid. Hey, you knew
Yes.
Guelph had that. You knew
Yep.
there's just something wrong. London shouldn't be up 3-0, right? Against this Guelph team, right? Because they were so solid, right?
Yes.
And they brought in so. Heartbreaking they didn't win it, but in the Memorial Cup. But I could, as I said to many, I said, better watch it. I don't care if they're up 3-0 or not. This Guelph team's too good. I don't want to get off that subject. This is the wrong year. This is 19. But to sum it up, London had some of those players obviously carry forward. Guelph had to strip it down because they went for it that year. And I figured London would have went deep in the playoffs anyways in the 1920 season.
Well, it just shows you how hard it is, Rick, to win the Memorial Cup. Because I felt the 2014 Storm team and the 19 Storm team had great chances to win it. And when you're in that Memorial Cup tournament, it's just a short tournament, and it's really hard to win the Memorial Cup, and especially after 4 rounds of OHL playoffs on top of that.
Yeah. Well, you take a look at the Storm, and I was there when in London when the Storm lost to. I guess it was the Oil Kings.
Yes.
Oil Kings, and a couple goals here and there should have maybe, you know what I mean. I kind of thought it was just bad breaks, for the Storm in that last game. The 19, the same thing. It's so hard to close it out, But you go back to Chris. You go back to the year 16. London did win it because they went to it 12. Remember?
Yeah,
12.
yep,
They
12.
lost it to in Quebec. Chicoutimi, I think. Was it Chicoutimi? Maybe in the last minute. Okay, in the Memorial Cup, they were the host, and then they went to Saskatoon the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like London went to the Memorial Cup 3 years in a row.
Yes.
They went to. You go back. Then they went to Saskatoon. I was there.
Yep.
Lost in the semifinal to who was it? Portland.
Yep.
And then boy, McKinnon was good that year. Just off topic of McKinnon, boy, he stole that show on the Memorial Cup. And then in 14, Guelph, they hosted it. Now London got beat pretty handily that year by all the teams, but Guelph had a good team there in 19, and then the 16 team that London went all the way. Boy, that Marner Dvorak Kachuk line. Boy, that has to be one of the best lines ever, right? That you'd have to think, 340 points or something between the three of them, and then one of the most memorable goals though was when Horvat scored in the 13. I'm a little bit all over the map here, sorry, but in the 13 OHL final, with Barry too. Remember that 0.1 second left in the game.
What was it like to call that game?
Well, it's good experience that night. It was on a Monday night, May 13th. I'll remember, 2013. And Barry was missing Shifley and a couple other guys. So London had a little bit of an advantage from that perspective, but Barry was tough. They had a good team. But anyways, Horvat scored the one, end up 3-2, I think, but it was so incredible calling Game 7. Of course, they were hanging in the rafters, like call it 9,100, call it really about 9,700 in there that night. And it was so back and forth. Barry came back in the third period to tie it up late. And then just people don't know this, but Athanasiou, former Knight, who's traded to Barrie, right? The puck goes off his stick. It came off the half boards, goes off his skate and right onto Horvat's stick at the side of the net. And he chipped, and like the clock was ticking down. Literally, there was 0.2 or 3 seconds left on the clock. Well, nobody knew if it went in or not. You know what I mean? Because it was so close. I called it and I said, whoa, goal or not goal. And Horvat was, I based on Horvat's reaction because he's the type of kid that wouldn't fake it. You know what I mean? He knew it was in the net. And it took like about 10 minutes before they finally said it was a goal. I've never been in an experience like it when the video judge came back and the referee pointed to center ice. And boy, you could hardly hear. I couldn't hear anything in my cans because of the crowd was just going crazy. Probably one of the best moments in my career calling hockey is that goal and that game right there.
I was going to say in the last 15 years, London's dominated. Guelph's been pretty solid.
Yeah.
Windsor's won their Memorial Cups.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why the Western Conference for at least the last 15 years has been the stronger conference?
You know, it's a good question. And you're right. Western's just been so dominant. You know, Oshawa won it in 15. I get it.
Yeah.
But
And
besides that, it was always the West it was like when the East came, no disrespect here, man. I'm not saying that, but when the East teams came in, it was kind of like, okay, that's good, but let's get to a West team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fun. And the reason is, it shouldn't be no reason because they're all OHL caliber and they're all well managed and well scouted. And it's just ironically, it's one of those things. But you have so many teams. Like when you look at the tradition in the OHL, they're kind of like teams more from the West. Yes, you have your Peterborough Petes. Yes, you have the Oshawa Generals. Yes, you have Ottawa 67s, Kingston in that mix too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't been like teams like the London Knights, Guelph Storm, Kitchener Rangers, all those teams that have been around forever, all right? And I think there's, and you don't want to say this, but, there could be the drawing card. Hey, from a kid's perspective, and this is just off the cuff when I say this, if I have an opportunity, do I want to go to London or do I want to go to somewhere else? Or do I want to go to Kitchener or do I want to go to somewhere else? I know you get drafted. I get it, right? But the idea of that point being going to those big centers, being more ready, NHL ready, because a lot of those kids, like a lot of the NHL teams, once you're drafted, that, will I go here or will I go the NCAA double route or NCAA route? Some of those kids will say, hey, or the NHL teams will say, get to Kitchener, get to Guelph, get to London. You know what I mean? You'll learn more there than you will anywhere else because of the big league experience already there.
Okay. Yeah, location as well. You're right about that. I thought of that too, especially Sudbury and North Bay as well. But like you said, it's also... Sure. But it's also good for the league as a whole if the Eastern Conference is stronger too. It makes the league all that much better. And this year it's gonna be a little different with the conferences just playing each other, and that's it for this year.
Something. It's kind of like the Canadian division in the NHL last year, right? Mm-hmm. So it's going to be it's going to be good from the perspective rather of rivalries, meaning, we'll see Guelph and vice versa. What is it? 8-10 times or something like that?
10 times this year, I believe.
Yeah. 10 times in the Midwest. And so guess what? That's going to create some fun.
Oh, definitely. And you guys open up your regular season and home opener against the Owen Sound Attack, who are always a solid team there. And then Guelph opens up against their rival Highway 7 rivals, Kitchener on the 8th and 9th.
yeah, so that's all four Midwest teams, and of course Owen Sound with Greg Walters being their new coach. I know he's a great coach, and I'm excited to yeah. And Kitchener should be pretty good. Well, it's going to be exciting, Chris, as far as the that Midwest division, and so the other part to that is somebody wants to get in the car, as long as we can get in the building. Somebody wants to get in the car, you can drive to it, no problem, right?
Yeah.
So especially in that Midwest, the track would be what I guess Sloan Sound type of thing, eh? But yeah, you can get a lot of away fans or like people in the away club, a lot of their fans can be at the building, as long as we're allowed in. So it should be. It's really looking forward to the excitement of that Midwest division playing 10 times and so on. So I bet there's some picking some numbers on every one
Definitely.
of those.
I already have November 26th circled out for me when the Knights make their first appearance in the Sleeman Center, which is going to be in almost 2 years, which is hard to believe. So I'll make sure
Yeah,
I
it's
be.
crazy.
Yes, I'll be
That's
making
crazy.
sure. Be making sure I'll be doing camera work for all the Knights games, especially in Guelph. So okay. that
Good.
that leads to my next question. What was it like working alongside your longtime partner, Rogers TV London, a color analyst, and former Knight defenseman Rick Doyle again?
Well, Rick and I go a long way back. There's a bit of a story there, like that, and it's a fluke. We ended up in the sandbox together. Rick and I grew up in Lindsay, Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we played all our minor hockey together. We won an Ontario Pee Wee championship together. So we've known each other since we were 4 or 5 years old, and so it was kind of crazy because it wasn't planned that I ended up in London. So the producer, Chris Burkhold, says to Doyle, he says one day, he says, we got a guy coming down to do a couple of games because when Mississauga, Mississauga went to Niagara, St. Catharines,
Mm-hmm.
and St. Mike's came in, right? All right. I was in Brampton doing some color at the time. Okay. So London knew I was a play-by-play guy. John Abbott went to radio. Because he was regularly doing the Knights TV broadcast as a play-by-play guy at the time. Anyways, long story short, Chris Burkhold's a producer, and London says to Rick Doyle, he says, we got a guy by the name of Greg Sloan coming down to do a couple games for us. And this is like 2007, like fall. And he says to him, I'm not sure if you ever heard of him. He said, Doyle said, I grew up with him, type of thing. So we go a long way back. So to answer your question, it's pretty easy doing it with Rick. He's a true professional, very well prepared all the time. It's a good blend for who I am and who he is as far as how it comes across, I believe. That's what we're told, how it comes across on TV. From a standpoint, I have a high energy type of call. Rick's more of a subdued, more monotone voice to him, so it comes across good that way, I think. But it's just like we're so comfortable together because we played hockey, we know the game, blah blah blah. So it's pretty comfortable us to do it together. There's never, we just know when we're hitting with each other, know exactly where we're going. In fact, we don't even think half the time we're doing a broadcast. We're just kind of shooting the guff on TV. We didn't even know we're on TV half the time. We're just watching the game, shooting the guff type of thing, eh? So that's how we call the game, and it's fortunate enough that we've been buddies and good friends so for a long time, and ended up in London calling hockey games 15 years down the road too, plus playing minor hockey. It's crazy how the world works.
I was going to say, and sometimes when you get new broadcast teams together, in my observation, it sometimes takes a little bit of time to develop chemistry. But obviously, with you and Rick, you guys just instantly connected, and
it was just a piece of cake from our perspective. Like we walked in together, and it's like ask yourself who's your best buddy or one of your best buddies, type of thing, eh? And you're all of a sudden doing something with them. It's pretty natural to do that. And you're absolutely right to get the cadence, or not the cadence, but get the connection with that person to come across, right? Because it takes time a little bit to get that connection, right?
Yes, and we've been lucky in golf too with Steve Fitzsimmons and Bill Granger have been doing the Storm games for at least 15 years or longer, and along with you guys as well. So
yeah. And my understanding, I think Bill retired. I heard that. I'm not sure if I correct that, but may have not been. But Steve and Bill's been around for years.
Yes,
and just as long as me or Rick, maybe even longer. In fact, I think even longer when it comes to me and Rick, because I remember Steve doing the games when I was in Mississauga with Bill.
yeah, and I think you guys all have a good style. I like listening to those guys, and also you guys as well, especially with the Knights, because like I said, you and Rick work really well together, and you guys are really professional, and you guys always give the other team their due as well. And you guys, like, obviously you want the Knights to win, but you guys are very professional.
Well, thank you very much for that. One of our main goals, and it just comes from, again, playing the game. We're not fans at that game. We're calling the hockey game. Right? We call it, even though probably deep down, truth to know, we'd like to see London win.
Mm-hmm.
But that sure as heck hopefully doesn't come across on TV, because at the end of the day, they're all kids. These kids aren't getting paid. They're not, you know what I mean? They're trying their best. They're out there. We just call it as we see it objectively, one way or the other. And we've always done that together. And hopefully it comes across exactly how you described it.
And one thing I've learned too, being a part of Rogers TV as a volunteer camera operator, how much work there is to set up in a broadcast and what goes on during the game, and then the tear down after the game too. The fans don't realize how much work there's involved in even an OHL broadcast as well.
When you look at these Rogers TVs and Cogeco, when you look at these broadcasts, these are not just one camera, blah, yourself, this is a next, if not just as good as any professional broadcast in the NHL in a lot of these cases, in the teardown and the setup. And I can't imagine it being anything different than, maybe I'm reaching a bit, Hockey Night in Canada. They might have a few more bells and whistles as far as Hockey Night in Canada goes. But as far as the main setup and the bones of a broadcast, they're the very same. They're the very same. And they're done so well. So, the producers and the obviously there's the bosses, the Jeremy Parkings of the world in our region, along with Chris, and I forget who your producer is, but they do outstanding work as far as getting together. And you can't say enough, something like yourself, the volunteers, camera people, like all the volunteers in the truck and in the control room, and all the, like, these are young men and women, kids, doing a professional job. It just blows me away how good you guys are when it comes to, producing a hockey game.
Yeah, and I have so much respect for
you. Make us look. Thanks.
Well, and the producer I know for Golf Storm is Neil White. He does a great job, and I just seeing the behind the scenes, what a producer does. It's just amazing. They're like the quarterback of the of the production right there. They have to know every aspect of it, and they're also great with me because I'm almost 50 years old, and I started this about a year and a half ago. Never had done broadcasting before or do camera work before, and Rogers TV has been really great with myself. They've treated me like one of their own.
Yeah. So that's wonderful. You think of Chris, yourself, me too. You think of the development that you have gone through to a point that we're talking on here today, right? So, just think of that, right?
Yeah, I've got my taste of my broadcasting actually with the Golf Nighthawks. They actually threw me into a game a couple years ago, and I'd never done camera work at all, and they liked my work. They actually paid me. They referred me to Rogers TV, and then I ended up doing. I ended up getting a taste of broadcasting, and I ended up starting my podcast about a year and a half ago.
Awesome. Nice. So that, and it's all for us, broadcasting, playing, camera work, podcasting. It's all about passion, isn't it? It's all about
Yes.
passion, something you like to do.
And my goal, hopefully, is to get into radio. And I just have to keep working hard. And like you said, Greg, I've been lucky to have guys like yourself, Mike Stubbs, Mike Farwell, Manny Pava from the Windsor Spitfires, to come on my podcast, and guys from Pro Sports as well. It's just been amazing. Everybody in your industry has been really great with coming on my podcast.
Because we're all guys that are just the same, like including, doesn't matter what you're doing. We all understand that we all make, it's a team effort, right? It all takes cameramen, broadcasters, play-by-play guys, color analysts in the control room, producing, directing, all those things put together, and it's all team. And we understand that at the end of the day, we do our best in our own zone. That's what creates that magic, right? For the viewers. And so that's why we're, generally speaking, so not accommodating maybe is the wrong word, but just we understand, we get it. You know what I mean? And we're all like a team. And it doesn't matter what city you're from or what OHL club you're doing. It's next to doesn't mean anything as far as that perspective goes. It means that we're a community in itself, right?
Yes. What I like about it, like you said, is it's a team effort. Everybody has to contribute to make the broadcast successful.
Right. Exactly. For sure.
Okay. Are you okay for a few more minutes? I just got a couple more questions I want to ask you.
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Love talking hockey.
No problem. I wanted to ask you, it might be hard to answer this right now because I obviously still in preseason, but which night players, if you're an opposition fan like myself with the Guelph Storm, which night players are to watch out for this season, and maybe some possible surprise players that could come out and really develop, in your opinion?
Well, again, I mentioned a few of them already. Watch out for. We like to think that like the main forwards will be probably obviously Evangelista and Strawn just up front. The surprise up front will be a guy like, again, because they're rookies, would be a guy like Landon Sim, guy like the rookie, the first round pick, Barkey.
Denver.
Plays, Denver Barkey. He's been playing outstanding. Boy, he's got some skill. Like, he's not a big kid yet, but he can handle the puck. McGurn is playing. I think he's put on 15 pounds, and is just Sean McGurn. He's just playing outstanding. McHugh's playing well. So again, it comes back to what I originally talked about right at the top. Some of these guys in the preseason, you just see that the year and a half they got bigger, they got stronger. It's just a matter of getting their game down, right? So I'm not sure they're going to be surprises. It's more of like an expectation because you're that much older. But as far as the rookies go, as far as the standouts that may be off the cuff that you wouldn't think, again, the Barkey kid, maybe a kid by the name of Brody Crane. He's a 4th round pick for the Knights in 2004, I believe. That's up front. Brochu won't be a surprise. He'll play solid. I've talked about the back end. Watch for Isaiah George. I mentioned him already, number 4. He's a heck of a hockey player. I would suggest those are kind of those the crew to watch off the cuff. That's what I've seen so far in that kind of stands out in the preseason, what I've seen so far.
Now, I wanted to ask you this too. I asked Mike this too. Do you find 6 preseason games is enough for coaches and general managers to evaluate these young players?
Well, I think usually when I started counting them up before, during a regular season without the COVID thing, they only have 4 usually.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I could be wrong on that. I'm just thinking out loud because they played Erie and Sarnia, maybe 4 or 5. So 6, I think so. I do. I think 6 is enough. I think during the camps, like during the main camps, they weed out obviously who can be a possibility obviously in making the hockey club. When you play 6 games, if you get into 6 games, right? They they get a pretty good handle if you can handle the OHL on a regular base. And usually that fringe OHL player usually has an affiliate team anyways. They're going to bring up and down all the time anyways. So for the junior B club or tier 2 club.
I was gonna
So
say,
to answer your question, yeah. To answer your question, yeah, I think it's plenty. Let's get
okay.
at the season. Yeah.
Now, goaltending situation, obviously, Brochure is number one. Are the Knights going to carry 3 goalies on the roster, or do they normally carry 2 and then have the other one in Junior B getting some
They'll have
playing
the
time?
other one probably in junior B. Anuski will be their backup. And Anuski played well in Hamilton last night. And he kind of was, something? He was kind of touted as a couple years ago as the next goaltender for the Knights. So, but Brochu kind of just worked his way into being that, right? And I was doing a game up in Clinton. We were doing a preseason game up in Clinton, September of 2019. Yeah, 19. And Brochu came in kind of as the third stringer in that game, right? He was kind of the new kid. Onuski was kind of like going to be the the main, like the backup to Miscue at the time, right? So, anyways, it ended up being like Brochu started and he started playing well. Well, his record. He won the 32 games, the best in the OHL as a rookie, right? And so he's taken over that number 1 spot. So Anuski's like the Knights are pretty good in goaltending. They got a 1A, 1B for sure, or 1A plus and 1A minus. Or they both play. They're both very, very, very good. So the third goaltender yet to be. I'm not sure who that will be. Will be in junior B for sure.
Okay. And as you know as well, goaltending is huge, especially come playoff time. And I know right now the Storm, they're in a transition with Nico Dawes losing his
Does
last year. He was outstanding. He was the OHL goalie of the year before the pandemic, and it was just too bad he
yeah,
didn't get to finish up his career in Guelph. So right now the Storm have Owen Bennett, a
yeah.
young kid named Oyster, and Dixon Grimes, who is the son of one of their former assistant coaches,
Okay.
battling for the backup spot. So it's going to be interesting, especially in Guelph in the next week, who gets that backup role to Owen Bennett for now.
So yeah, that's we're in that situation. Let them. You got to find out who's gonna. We come back to those preseason games. You come back to those games where you got to evaluate and you got to take a chance. And obviously, if they're part of the organization, they get up and bring them down, and vice versa.
And
Something.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say. We won't know until all this. Till like in the 6 preseason games, even though you can find out, but it's only a start to the season,
Yes.
right? At the end of the day, at the end of the game, regular season games are only practices to get to the playoffs, right?
Yes.
You just want to be making the playoffs. Obviously, you want to make sure the regular season, the practices, as I refer to as regular season games, you want to be good enough in practice to make the playoffs. But the real season, to be cliche, it starts in March, or in this case, April.
April.
Right?
Yep, definitely. And I just
Yeah.
two questions left to ask you. This might be hard to answer too with what's going on with the pandemic and all that. But who do you think some of the other OHL teams could possibly be to look out for in the Western Conference, and maybe 1 or 2 teams in the Eastern Conference to keep an eye out on?
Okay, what I've seen so far, and just by rosters, like on paper, Windsor Spitfires. I think they'll be a team to be reckoning with. Okay. Um, Maybe Saginaw. Again, I can't really say, but I'm just thinking out loud just from
Mhm.
past. Um, Kitchener, maybe. Okay. Um, in the East, well, Oshawa was going for it last year, so I'm going to count them out. Uh, Ottawa, I think's rebuild. I kind of think when you looked at, I think the Barrie Colts will be really good. Just if Brant Clark comes back, and we had a Barrie in the other night, and boy, they look good, like really good, even in their rookie roster, and some of the veterans in there. And they got a fair amount of guys at camp too. So Barrie, count out Mississauga was a young team a couple years back. They'll be okay. The Mastro kid is really good on the back end. Of course, Kingston, get the best player in the league on their team, right? Um, I don't know. It's hard to say, but those come to mind. Yeah.
Okay. And I was going to say, and my last question I was going to ask you, and before I ask you the last question, do you think long term the Mississauga Steelheads can survive in Mississauga, or do you see that franchise possibly moving to another location in the next couple of years?
Well, I've been doing, kind of my home turf when it comes to calling hockey. It's been doing the same thing for whatever, 15, 16, 17 years. Same amount of people coming in the ring. So it's too bad that they don't draw more. That rink should be packed on a regular basis, and it's tough to. So much multicultural in the Brampton, Mississauga area, and you just crack that line up or that demographic with the rink being limited. But to answer your question, depends on the ownership, man. At the end of the day, you need to make money. You need to make money, right? And I see a possibility with that franchise based on what I just said. The team's been like that for 15 years. Would it be better off in a town the size of Wells, or the size of 100,000 population, right? Because in somewhere out of GTA, tough, Virginia.
I was going to say, and yeah, it's actually the 30th year of Guelph Storm hockey here too, and it took the Storm a little while to build up their fan base here as well, and they've
Yeah,
done a really great job. And the Storm actually have a new owner, I guess, recently too. A couple of businessmen, lawyers apparently from Toronto that bought the team. So, and
yeah, I
I'm
read
so
that.
glad. And I'm so glad that George Burnett's staying on as coach and GM
Coach.
because he's brought a lot of stability to the Storm after Scott Walker stepped down after their championship year of 14. And then they had a few other coaches come in between there, and then Mike Kelly retiring. So I think it's great that the new owners are going to have George stay
Yeah,
on as coach and general manager. I think he's one of the best in the business.
absolutely. I know George, and he's a great coach and great communicator with the kids, and no nonsense, great communicator, and he's always developed.
Oh, you just cut out there. So
Just
yeah, it's
look
just
at
the Wi-Fi.
his career is outstanding as far as belonging.
You're
19, man. You can't gotta like him in 19 when he picked up Suzuki and all those guys.
that was a
Right?
huge trade. That was a huge trade, and one of the key.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. That the Owen Sound trade was huge, but also the trade with
Hello.
Hamilton to get McKenzie in Whistle. Can you still hear me, Greg? Yeah, getting McKenzie in Whistle for a little more grit helped as well. And they don't win the OHL championship without those trades with Owen Sound and Hamilton that year. Definitely. Still great. That was still a great series, and I got to see all the games in Guelph, and I wish I could have gone to the games in London. But hopefully, they meet the Knights again in the playoffs. Perhaps maybe this season, because I'm looking forward to the Storm Knights renewing their rivalry down the 401. Greg, I was just going to ask you one last question before I let you go. Um, any advice for those looking to pursue a career in broadcasting?
To start off, but more importantly, never give up. Try, try, try. Get good. Like anything else, Chris. It's like anything else. You got to do things. Ordinary people do extraordinary things, right? So it's like go to the rink. If you want to be a play-by-play guy, go to the rink. Pretend, whether you bring a tape recorder or use your phone or whatever you want to do, just call the game. Get good at it. Call the game off a TV monitor, but more or go to a local rink, but just keep getting good. Just keep going. Just try to keep good at getting good at your craft. Sooner or later it breaks. You're going to get your chance, and if you get the OHL and you're young enough, you'll have a possibility of doing higher things in your career. So never give up the passion. It's all about passion, man, and trying hard.
Definitely. I was gonna say, Greg, I want to say thank you so much for coming on today, and
Yeah,
maybe in the future I can have you or even Rick come on and talk about his career as a nice defenseman and as
yeah,
a color analyst. And
yeah.
I told Mike Stubbs this too. I said, as long as you guys aren't playing the Storm, I might have to be a fan of the Knights, because getting to know you and Mike Stubbs and Jim Van Horn,
Yeah.
it's hard to root against a team when you meet people from the organizations
Yeah.
and make connections and stuff like that. So I really hope the Knights have a great year, as long as they're not doing so well against the Guelph Storm.
Touche. Gotta like that, Chris. Thanks for having
Oh,
me on. Been a true pleasure, and good luck with your podcast.
thank you so much, Greg. We'll keep in touch. Take care.
Okay.
Have a great day.
You
Thank
too.
you. Bye.
Talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my second podcast today with Greg Sloan, the longtime TV voice of the London Knights for Rogers TV in London. And he is partnered up with his former high school and college player, Rick Doyle, on their broadcast. And Greg and Rick do such a great job with the London Knights. So before I get going, guys, I'm just going to show you a little clip of Rick and Greg Sloan, courtesy of Cogeco TV in Peterborough. Just 1 second. And I'm just going to put this on for you guys.
Welcome back to the OHL tonight on your TV. Now, we had a bit of a serendipitous occasion in Lindsay on October 21st. As I mentioned, Rick Doyle and Greg Sloan, the on-air crew for the London Knights. They also happen to be from Lindsay, Ontario, and they also happen to play on a Pee-wee team that won the Ontario Championships in 1969-1970 that season. A great story for the two of them, eventually ending up being broadcast partners. Rick Doyle's mom actually is a season ticket holder here in Peterborough for Pete's games. So let's throw to that feature with Rick Doyle and Greg Sloan, the on-air crew for Rogers TV in London.
Well, it's interesting because I was asked to do the London Knights broadcast way back in 2001, and I started in 2002. Greg was doing the OHL at that time. He was in Mississauga, he was in Brampton, he did some games down in Niagara, and the job came up in London. And Greg applied for the job, and he got the job. And afterwards, the producer said, "Do you know Greg Sloan?" I said, "Well, I've known him for about 50 years. So yes, I do know Greg Sloan, and I know him quite well." He said, "Well, he's your new play-by-play guy." I said, "Fabulous," because we've been friends that long.
Friends for more than 50 years. And on October 21st, 2018 at the Lindsay Armory, Rick Doyle and Greg Sloan became Hall of Fame teammates.
And we are honored to welcome the Lindsay Kinsman Pee-wee hockey team of 1969-1970 into our Lindsay District Sports Hall of Fame for 2018. Congratulations. I'd like to call upon Rick Doyle, if I could, to speak on behalf.
At this point, viewers of London Knights games on Rogers TV might know just as much about the Lindsay Kinsman Pee-wees from 6970 as the people of Lindsay, as Greg and Rick aren't shy about bringing up their hometown.
Well, we have talked about it in the past. We usually talk about it around Good Friday, and our producer, Chris Burkholz, on our broadcast will periodically flash up that team picture from the Lindsay All-Stars wearing this sweater right here. And we get the opportunity to reminisce and talk about it. So it comes up periodically for sure, but Lindsay comes up all the time. Anybody has a connection to Lindsay that plays the game, they're going to get mentioned. And they're going to get mentioned along with the town of Lindsay.
The community involved in Lindsay brings us today to say Lindsay. We're very, very proud of our community in the Kawarthas, including Peterborough. We think Peterborough, Lindsay, basically in the same sentence. So, yeah, wonderful to be here at the induction for our Pee Wee team, and really special to have Rick and I doing the games in London now for 12 years, and still sort of playing in that sandbox when we were kids, way back when we were 12 and 13.
The team was truly talented and left a long-lasting impression on minor hockey in Lindsay, and even sent 2 players to the pro ranks. Rick Doyle played 4 seasons with the London Knights and was a draft pick of the Colorado Rockies, even playing a handful of games with the Peterborough Petes. And Don Maloney went on to a long NHL career, making 2 All-Star game appearances along the way. He's now the Senior Vice President of Hockey Operations with the Calgary Flames. Many different roads traveled for the group, but the championship remains special to them all.
When you haven't seen guys in 48 years like we haven't seen them, and you've accomplished something that was a bright spot in your history, you often think of those guys regularly. And I know that Greg, Sloan, and I reminisce about all these guys frequently. So to actually get the opportunity to talk to some of them, fabulous.
Seeing all these guys here today was incredible. I had the privilege of kind of organizing and saying, hey, we won, we won the championship. We were going into the Hall of Fame. And I haven't talked to a lot of these guys in 40 some years. So it was really special just seeing or hearing them on the phone. And then all of a sudden today, seeing them, who are you? And you have to put the glasses on and you figure, oh man, Phil McKenzie or Bob Maloney. And I know Don, obviously from the hockey side of things, but Pete Savage, the list goes on and on. Robbie Armstrong, we all seem to get together. Something. There's always something special about winning a championship, whether what level it is, whether it's a Pee Wee level, a Memorial Cup, or a NHL championship, a Stanley Cup. It's always special. That bond will never, ever go away. A championship's a championship.
Anyways, that clip is courtesy of Kojiko and Peterborough of my guest, Greg Sloan and Rick Doyle, who do a great job with Rogers TV in London for the London Knights telecast as well. So, and the Knights' next preseason game is tomorrow night against the Barrie Colts. And I know the Storm have a preseason game this Friday night at 7:30 at the Sleeman Center, which I will be doing volunteer work as a camera operator for Rogers TV as well. I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching this podcast on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And also, guys, Live with CDP podcast, the audio version is always downloaded onto Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, and on my LinkedIn page as well. And it's called Live with CDP podcast on the audio version as well. And also, guys, you can follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP, And also, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, Chris Palme, Live with CDP. I'm up to 55 subscribers now, so all my podcasts are on there live as well. So I really appreciate everybody coming on today. I want to say thank you again to Eric Smith of the Raptors broadcast coming on earlier this morning, and Greg Sloan again as well. So my next podcast will be next week. I believe it'll be Monday, October 4th at 5:30. I just have to confirm with my guest. It's a radio personality. He's a radio personality from Windsor, CKLW 800 in Windsor, Mike Kukat. And I'm looking forward to speaking to Mike next Monday as well. Anyways, guys, like I said, I'm going to call this a show. But like I said, I really appreciate everyone watching. Live with CDP merchandise, podcast shirts are 15, coffee mugs are 15, and my new podcast hats, if you're interested, are $18. Shipping is extra if you're out of golf and out of country as well. And before I go, guys, I just wanted to mention about the Eagles' tough 41-21 loss to Dallas Monday night. I just thought Dallas, all sides of the ball, all aspects of the game, outplayed the Eagles, and I'm hoping the Eagles can rebound this Sunday, October 3rd, 1 o'clock kickoff at the link against Pat Mahomes and the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs, who are also 1-2 and desperate for a win right now. So it's a huge game for both teams, and I'm hoping the Eagles can bounce back with a more competitive and maybe possible win, but we'll see what happens there. But again, I'm going to call this a show, but I just want to say thank you again to everybody who's been tuning into my podcasts. Really appreciate it. And I've been very lucky to get great guests. Like I said today, Eric Smith and Greg Sloan. And now I'm going to have one from Windsor this Monday, Mike Kukat from CKLW 800 in Windsor to talk about his radio career working in the Windsor market. And he is a huge Tigers and Lions and Pistons fan as well. So anyways, guys, I'm going to call this a day, but I'm looking forward to seeing you guys Monday, October 4th at 5:30 with Mike from CKLW 800 and Windsor. So I hope you guys all have a great night. Great rest of the week. Enjoy the football games on the weekend, and we'll see if the Jays can beat the Yankees tonight and get back into that wild card race with the Jays, Yankees, and Boston as well. So, all right, guys, thanks again for watching and listening to Live with CDP podcast. We'll see you this Monday, October 4th at 5:30. Thanks again. Take care.